Welcome. My name is Natasha Wernick and I'm your host for today. Welcome to Webinar 3, Building Orbost and District Together, Place-Based Leadership and Governance Workshop Series. On behalf of the Orbost community, thank you for taking the time to join and contribute to this important series of webinars. We would like to acknowledge the Gunakurnai, Monero and Bidawal people as the traditional owners of the land on which Orbost is located. We pay our respects to their elders past and present. My name is Natasha Wernick and I'm a Community Development Programs Facilitator for Australian Business Volunteers. I acknowledge that I'm on Bundjalung country up here in northern New South Wales. Now, I would also like to take this moment to thank and acknowledge you and all the valuable work that you have already done in Orbost and District. We acknowledge that the principles and knowledge we are sharing is not new and may not be new to you. They will have already influenced sound community groups and community decisions in Orbost and in the past. They are just being reiterated in this way, so we all enter the August 21st workshop with the same base knowledge. We also acknowledge that we are standing on the shoulders of giants, the previous and current community leaders and the community shapers, both volunteers and in paid roles in Orbost and District. As you have given your time for this webinar and process, I acknowledge you as one of these giants and reflect on how lucky Orbost is to have you. This webinar series has been created in partnership with the Future of Orbost and District Governance Group and the Australian Business Volunteers Resilient Regions Gippsland Program, with special mention to Dr. Nicola Watts, Tabitha Jarman and Hayley Sestokis from the Future of Orbost and Carrie, George and the team from ABV. A little bit of housekeeping. You will remain muted and your camera won't be activated for the duration of today's event. It will be recorded and made available after the event, and all your questions for the speakers can go in the chat box. We will be reviewing those questions as we go along, giving opportunities for others to answer as well. Also, make a note of your reflections. You will be requested to put them into a survey at the end of the event today. This is our third webinar in the series. In these webinars, we're diving into the question, what kind of governance and leadership does it take to support community prosperity and place-based development in Orbost and District? As the Future of Orbost and District group comes to a close, what structure and principles are needed to take the community forward? Like many places across the world, Orbost and District is working out how to protect and enhance the long-term social, economic and environmental well-being of where they live. Through this series, we're bringing in voices from up and down the East Coast, people who are actively shaping their communities through local ownership, leadership and working together. Today, you'll hear directly from those on the ground, how their groups came together, how they organised themselves, what they've achieved so far, and the lessons they've picked up on the way. Excuse me. Each session is a chance for us to step back and think about what is possible for Orbost and District and consider how the good ideas we hear could work in our own context. This journey builds on what you've already learned, whether it's from the Black Summer bushfires, the transition out of native forestry, or ongoing challenges like climate, housing and jobs. Orbost and District isn't facing these challenges alone. There's real value in learning from others who are on similar paths. Today's webinar is part of a collaboration with Australian Business Volunteers and the Future of Orbost and District Governance Group. We're building up to a community workshop in August that you're all invited to. That workshop will help us pull together the best ideas we've heard so far into a local plan of action, making sure everyone's informed, inspired, and ready with a strategy that, as Orbost District shapes its next chapter. Thanks again for making the time to be part of these conversations. So let's get started. Today's agenda includes a Webinar 2 recap, giving you some food for thought for this webinar, sharing some case studies from inspiring guest speakers leading up to a Q&A, and finally, we will ask you to reflect on what you've learned and what it means for Orbost District. In Webinar 2, we focused on place-based capital, and we heard speakers from Murbo North, Cobargo and Buchan share their experiences. Some of the key takeaways were every community has valuable assets. So Orbost District is fortunate to have a mix of valuable assets, not just the obvious ones like land and buildings, but also the skills people have, the rich cultural heritage, and the strong social networks that hold the community together. It's really important we recognise and value all these assets because they are the foundation for growing local prosperity. Starting with what we already have rather than what we're missing gives us a much stronger platform to build from. Ownership is the second point. Who owns the assets in the community is key. It influences who has the power to make decisions and who benefits from them. When ownership stays local or is shared among community members, Orbost can keep control over its future, build resilience, and make sure the benefits stay in the hands of locals. Exploring models like a cooperative or shared ownership can help the community hold on to its wealth rather than seeing it slip away to outside interests. Inclusive and shared governance models work best is our third point. Good local governance isn't just about a few wealthy or well-connected people making calls. It's about inclusive, community-led structures where all voices can be heard, including those who often get left out. This is what creates fairness and builds stronger communities. When diverse views are taken on board, we're more likely to come up with fair and lasting solutions that work for everyone in Orbost. Finally, long-term collaboration and trust are foundations. Building strong partnerships and leadership takes time. It's not something that happens overnight, and it's got to be based on trust, respect, and a shared vision for the future. That's how we create social, economic, and environmental outcomes that really last. Trust and ongoing collaboration are some of the most important things we can invest in if we want a thriving community for the long haul. So let's get started on Webinar 3. This webinar focuses on place-based governance and how it plays out in Orbost. Orbost is a close-knit rural community nestled on the Snowy River, surrounded by beautiful forest and rich farmland. It's a place with clean air, green spaces, and a strong local spirit. Place-based governance means making sure that people like you, those who live, work, and have a stake here, are at the heart of decisions that affect your community. It's about working together, government and community, to tackle the unique challenges Orbost faces. We'll cover how governance can be shaped by local voices and knowledge, aiming for outcomes that stick around long term, just like that sturdy old hut in Orbost that reminds us of the settlers' efforts to build lasting communities. One size fits all never works. Orbost is unique, right? Its location on the Snowy River, surrounded by farmland and forests, gives it particular strengths and priorities. So when we talk about local context, we mean solutions that fit Orbost's environment, economy, and people, not just generic policies from Melbourne or Canberra. This slide reminds us that everyone together, locals, council, state, government reps, businesses, and community groups, come together to agree on where we want Orbost to head. The shared vision is what guides action and keeps us all rowing in the same direction. With projects like the Future of Orbost District initiative, we see this approach in action. Local ideas driving what economic opportunities we pursue as industries evolve. It's about genuinely co-designing our future. Deep community engagement. Well, real engagement means everyone gets a say, especially those who have not been heard before, and that input shapes what happens next. In Orbost, deep community engagement means more than holding a meeting or sending out surveys. We need everyone's voices, from farmers, shopkeepers, healthcare workers, elders, young people, and especially our local communities, our local First Nation communities. They need to be heard and valued. We live in a community where people genuinely know each other when they wave when passing, and they rely heavily on one another. That trust and connection mean engagement can be ongoing and meaningful, not just a one-off, tick off the box exercise. We want to encourage feedback loops where community input shapes plans and sees tangible results, then feeds back into future decisions. It builds ownership and confidence that community drives change, not just the government. Empowerment and self-determination. Empowering communities is more than just consultation. Local people help shape, make, and review decisions. Ideally, Aboriginal self-determination is a key component. Empowerment means giving power, funds, and decision-making back to Orbost and its people. The goal is for Orbost people to lead the design, delivery, and evaluations of programs, rather than outsiders imposing solutions. It's a respectful partnership, acknowledging that locals have the best insights about the challenges and opportunities in this region. Success relies on being open, honest, and sharing responsibility, learning from both numbers and community experience, and joining up across government. Things move faster and smoother when everyone knows their role and is open about progress, whether it's local council, state government, community groups, or business leaders. In Orbost, accountability means sharing responsibility for how well policies and projects deliver for locals. It's about reporting back regularly, being transparent about what's working or not, and making course corrections as needed. We also emphasise continuous learning, using local data and stories to inform decisions. For example, monitoring how changes in the local economy affect families or how environmental projects impact the Snowy River system. Coordination is critical too. With different agencies involved in health, education, environment, and economic development, working together avoids duplication and makes the best use of limited resources. Finally, sustainability is about building lasting systems, skills, and institutions in Orbost, not just short bursts of energy that end when funding dries up. Your community is known for resilience, like the strong gardens and trees that thrive there, symbolising this kind of growth we want in governance. That means supporting local leadership so that community-driven initiatives continue long after external projects finish. In short, genuine ongoing community engagement and empowerment combined with shared responsibility and learning create the best chance for Orbost to thrive into the future. It's time to hear how these ideas actually come alive on the ground. Our valued guests are from Buderim, Yukai, and Orbost, and they bring first-hand experience in applying these principles in their own communities. Let's invite them to share their insights, challenges, and successes in making governance locally led, collaborative, and responsive to their unique regional contexts. Our first speaker is Melanie Bloor. Now, Melanie Bloor is a co-founder of Resilient UK, or Rookie, a small community resilience organisation in the Northern Rivers of New South Wales. Rookie creates appealing and robust pathways for residents to assist each other through crisis moments like floods or fire, using the building blocks of connection and kindness. Alliance building with official agencies and a stronger collaborative approach to disaster management that this fosters is also a focus of her work. Empowerment and trust are her calling cards. Our second speaker is Dougal Pitt from the Buderim War Memorial Community Association. Unfortunately, our designated speaker, Errol Richardson, became unwell, so was not able to participate. Fortunately, Dougal can stand in his place. So Dougal was educated by and worked in the forest products industry of South Africa. After an assignment in Hong Kong, in a Hong Kong trading company dealing in specialised pulps for textiles, pharmaceutical and food industries, Dougal retired and has happily settled in Buderim in Queensland. Dougal is now the Vice President and Grants Coordinator of the Buderim War Memorial Community Association, also BWMCA. Our final speaker, Orbost's very own Liz Mitchell. The Liz moved to Orbost with her young family in 1999. She bought the local vet practice with her husband. The potential and opportunity for the local environment led her to develop a new career in cycle tourism, as well as participating in many community projects that seek to help Orbost thrive. Now, I can't see Mel there just yet. So I think what I'll do is I'll welcome Dougal as our first speaker today. So, and in the background, I'll work out how to get Mel back in. So please join me in welcoming Dougal Pitt from the Buderim War Memorial Community Association, who will tell us about their unique approach to community leadership and resilience. Dougal, the floor is yours, but just hold a moment while I stop sharing my screen and then spotlight you. Beautiful. Okay, take the floor.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak in relation to the Future of Orbost project. As Natasha mentioned, I'm going to talk to you today about a community organization that has been in existence for 80 years. It was initiated by the community, it is run by the community, and it is supported by the community. The name of the organization, as Natasha said, is the Buderim War Memorial and Community Association, but it is more fondly known by the community and by the members of the organization as the BWMCA, and I'll refer to it as we go through as that. Just to be clear, the BWMCA is not an RSL. As the name implies, it is situated in the township of Buderim, which is on the Sunshine Coast. This area was first settled around 1862, and it is now home to around 30,000 residents. But Buderim still has very much that village feel and vibe to it, and the people greet and speak to one another in the street. The BWMCA itself was formed by the 600-odd residents that were here in 1945 at the end of the Second World War. And they formed it as a living memorial, on the one hand, to honor those people who had fought for their country, and also to ensure that the spirit of community that had evolved during the war years was maintained, and that it could be prevailed after the war had completed. The BWMCA's motto is service to commemorate sacrifice. Then its goal is promoting and building on the traditional sense of community in Buderim. So the aims are somewhat different to that of the Future of Orbost project, but there can be some similarities which perhaps will be drawn from the purposes, and I'd like to outline those purposes, which are, firstly, we address the issues that affect the development of the Buderim community, such as town planning. We provide a community information hub, and we do that through the old post office, a facility which I'll speak about and expand on shortly. We also disseminate information to the community through a monthly newsletter. We manage and we plan for community facilities, and the Buderim War Memorial Community Association, or BWMCA, holds 4 historical properties that form the fabric of Buderim. We conduct special community events. A classic example of that is the Anzac Day services. We create links between organizations, and this is quite important, and I'll come back to this. And this is in order to share experiences with one another. We always foster the development of community organizations. The very first organization that came out of the BWMCA in 1946 was the Buderim Garden Society. The latest organization that has just joined as an affiliate of the BWMCA is the Buderim Chat Seat, which is a very casual and informal placing where members of the community can sit and talk and be listened to, something that we're finding very, very important for the community. And another purpose that we have that has been held for the past 69 years is that we welcome new residents to Buderim at a sunset gathering. And we found that to be very, very effective in welcoming and drawing new residents into the community. Now, the success of the BWMCA really lies in the fact that it was initiated by the community. The community has ownership of it. And many organizations, such as the Garden Society or the Chat Seat, etc., have originated from it, and as such, have an interest in its continuing success, which has helped us enormously. The BWMCA owns 4 properties in Buderim. The Memorial Hall, which is a very, very busy place with all kinds of activity, as village halls would have. And we recently celebrated its centenary, and it too originated as a slab hut. So it is managed by volunteers. Then the old post office is situated on the main street of Buderim. It is our headquarters, and it is also a community information center, not a tourist information center, but a community information center. And it provides for local residents and for some visitors, where we give information on the community, on the region. We sell souvenirs, and we also provide a JP service, and that is staffed by volunteers. We also own what is called Pioneer Cottage and Vice Cottage. Pioneer Cottage in particular is a home and a house that was built in 1882, and it has been fully restored and now serves as a tourist destination and attraction. How is the BWMCA organized? Well, the structure of the BWMCA can be described as an umbrella community organization. Although its current membership really consists of 370 odd individual and family memberships, it also has, very importantly, 60 affiliated community organizations. And this is the unique feature of BWMCA. The affiliate members are all totally independent. They come from a very wide range of organizations, but they form very much a part of the community that we enjoy here in Buderim. How about the management of BWMCA? Well, it's through a management committee, which meets monthly. And from what I've just described, having affiliates and different facilities, this has the potential to be a very, very large gathering of people comprising of a regular associations committee, the chairman of the various subcommittees and the different project groups that we have. And then each of those affiliated organizations provides a delegate who may attend the meeting from time to time. So there is a potential for up to 70 people to attend such a meeting. And what we do in order to be able to avoid the bottlenecks and the constraints of that sort of situation evolving is that the management committee was approached and was requested to delegate some of its powers to an executive committee. And that executive committee consists of a maximum of 6 persons. And the executive committee then runs the day-to-day affairs of the association. It then reports to the monthly management committee meeting and brings forward major issues for consideration and perhaps even some recommended courses of action. Now, these monthly management meetings are a great forum for the attendees. In addition to the reporting back by that executive committee to that management committee and anything that may flow from that, the meeting has a wider effect, which may be interesting for you. The delegates from affiliated organizations have an opportunity to report on the activities of their group. They promote any coming events that they may have of interest to the community, and they have the opportunity to request support, not just from the BWMCA, but from all the other organizations affiliated to the BWMCA. Plus, they can give advice to others on any particular issue, and on occasion, they may offer support or share on a mutual benefit. What about key successes and achievements? The BWMCA has been around for 80 years, and I guess one could say that is an achievement. Following our goal, which I mentioned, is to promote and build on the traditional sense of community in Buderim, has served us well. To build on community spirit, you need community engagement. And when you engage with the community and take them with you on the journey, successes will follow. We like to think that by staging many community events that we do hold, that nurtures the soul of the community. Those events can be very well attended, from several thousand up to 5,000 people at, for example, the community Christmas carols. The introduction of a newsletter by the BWMCA has been a major success. It started as a few pages with news about the organization, but then it developed where we invited the affiliated organizations to write articles about their activities, and that has really been key to the success of the newsletter. They love to see news about their group in print, and particularly stories about their volunteers. The advantages are huge. We get our message out, they get their message out, they forward their newsletter on to their members, and copies of the newsletter are made available to the public in Buderim. Thus, the wider community is aware of all the major developments and activities that the different organizations and the community are undergoing. Key lessons and challenges? Well, engage with the stakeholders. We understand their issues and we try to offer support. And we firmly believe that you have to be seen to be actively engaged. Understand that our people are volunteers and may have various other commitments, and priorities and levels of competence. In conclusion, I do hope that this has been helpful. The structure of BWMCA is unique, it works well, and it has survived the test of time. Community engagement is the key. Thank you.
Fabulous. Dougal, thank you so much for sharing your insights there. Now, I'm pleased, very pleased to introduce Melanie Bloor from Resilient UKI, who will be sharing her insights from her inspiring community-led journey. Just let me stop spotlighting the beautiful man in the waterfall and start spotlighting Mel Bloor. There she is. Welcome, Bloor. Mel, you've got the floor.
Bloor's got the floor. Love it. Thanks, Natasha, for shepherding us through the technical hell that is the internet. Yeah, you're doing a sterling job. I really appreciate it. And just a quick shout out to the woman who built the home in which I live, Kay Bristow, who's on the call coincidentally. So just some personal housekeeping there. I come from the lands of the Bundjalung Nation in the Northern Rivers. I live at the base of a beautiful sacred mountain called Wollumbin, which is an ancient volcano that created this area. Sounds similar to your country down there. We're heavily forested, beautiful river, and with thin, we don't have those fertile plains that you have. We have thin little alluvial strips that a lot of people live on, and they become flooded when we have a lot of rain, which we seem to be doing a lot of lately up here. And my particular interest is in navigating the challenges of climate change and helping the community that I live in to be prepared for those challenges. So it's coming from a slightly different slant to the more broader picture of community building that on the journey that you've been on. And I've looked at the previous webinars that you've been part of. And I want to just say up front that the organisation that I helped found and I'm currently the president of is called Resilient UKI, and we have a very clear agenda, which is the one that I've just described. So it's not a bigger picture community development organisation like some of the others that you've been listening to. We do have another organisation within our community that has that role, and we do have a community-owned building. We've got our own newsletter. We have shops in that building that bring in an income, and we put on a market once a month that brings tourism to the town and things like that. But for us, we would have been happy as we were burgeoning as an organisation, which happened coincidentally just after the 2022 mega floods and landslips that happened up here, the biggest natural disaster Australia had seen at that point, notwithstanding the Black Summer fires, of course. Disasters are often accounted when it comes to how much impact they have on humans rather than on the environment, unfortunately. But I digress. And we would have liked to have come in under their wing. So I'm just saying this for something to consider. But they really were at capacity with managing the things that they were managing and didn't feel that they had the capacity to absorb a separate interest under their framework. So we really had no choice but to go out on our own and become an incorporated body. So what happens after disasters is money rains from the sky, at least at this point in time. That money will definitely dry up, but at the moment after a big event, there's lots of grants and things like that. So we knew that would happen, and we thought we better make ourselves a hat to catch that money. So really, we only became an incorporated body so that we could apply for grants, which we did, and we were successful in. So how do we go about working out what we needed to do, and how did we become representative of the needs of our community? We've taken a really different approach, probably to the one that you're all going to take, but it's nice to see a different way of doing it. In fact, Kate Brady, who's a bit of a guru in this field, came and studied us at one point. She was looking at governance structures across resilience groups across Australia, and crunching the data and hoping that this one, perfect structure would emerge that they could suggest to groups like ours as they formed. However, what the data showed was that there is, like you said earlier, Natasha, there is no perfect example. Everything works if it works. So on one end of the spectrum, her team had Malakuta, for example, after the Black Summer fires, who got the Australian Electoral Commission involved. Couldn't have been more, above board and representative if you tried. And then Resilient Yukai was on the other end of the spectrum. So we don't pretend to be or try to be representative of our community at all, which is quite revolutionary. And we don't actually try to be anything, if that will make sense a little bit more after I explain. But we instead try to empower the 3,000 odd people that live in their area where I'm speaking of, to take charge of their own communities and to look after themselves and each other outside of external support, because when push comes to shove in these disaster moments, that's what it comes down to. So just on the side, if anyone's expecting the emergency services to roll in and sort everything out when bad events weather-wise happens, quite possibly not going to occur. So as a community, you need to be prepared for that possibility. So the first thing to do for us was that the 3,000 people live in these little settlements. Once upon a time, they would have been villages unto themselves, but now with the invention of roads and cars and all these kind of things, and we're much more connected now, they're really just conglomerates of houses, but they have their own independent sense of place. So what we did is we mapped those out and we created 12 different neighbourhoods within our area, all with about 300 people in them. And we paid a local community member who's very experienced in community development to go around and hold an event in each of those neighbourhoods. So very hyper-local. We were looking at a really distributed power model here. So we went to those, we put on some food, we brought some gazebos and a whiteboard, and we popped out our community member at the front there, and she talked the community through a process where they could look at what their priorities were. And this, again, this is specifically around how to respond to large weather events. And after a big weather event, everyone's really interested. Things always go badly and people want things to go better next time. So we had a really huge input and a buy-in, and everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people showed up to these events, and we were able to garner from them what their priorities were. And luckily, and not surprisingly, their priorities were pretty much the same across the 12 neighbourhoods. Thank God, just made it so much easier for us. So then we ranked those as a priority, we put it back to everyone, got those people to respond back to see if that worked for them, which it did. And then as an organisation, we just cracked on, so to speak, with helping those neighbourhoods to achieve those goals themselves. So the first one was communication. We had no power, we had no internet, we had no phone, we had no access via our roads for some places for many, many weeks. And communication was their number one thing. So we've set up a UHF radio network, and that is run by those neighbourhoods themselves. So they have designated a radio coordinator. They've worked out, with assistance from us, through some subject matter experts, that we've been able to coordinate where the best spot is to have the equipment. We have put forward some protocols that they may like to follow, or they might not. They don't have to follow. There's nothing is prescribed. Everything is very bottom up, and suggestions are made, and then those neighbourhoods can do what they like in whatever way they want. And we've done that for a number of different priorities that they have outlined in that first gathering. We have a pod system where each of those neighbourhoods are broken into smaller areas of, say, up to 12 households, and we have kind of leaders in each of those households that shepherd over those households. So again, that really trying to foster that sense of empowerment and hyper-local leadership. So we as an organisation pretend not to really do anything. We're really just there to help those people on the ground to feel empowered as leaders themselves to look after each other. We've been quite successful in our agenda. We also have a cache of equipment that we can lend out at different times. We've got things like a Starlink on our hall now and a generator to power that. We've assisted the official emergency services to be able to interface with our community. Each of those neighbourhoods now have social media threads, so we can bring information down into that very household level, critically important information. And we're working on how to be able to feed information back up through that system, back out to the emergency services, so that they can assist us better. We're not trying to be separatist. We really would like some help. Thanks very much. So we're trying to make that nexus point, I guess, between what I call the benevolent machine and community as strong as possible. So we've made our own kind of community partners with Anglicare and the Salvation Army and the RSPCA and these kind of things. What we haven't done is, as a community group, which is, I see what you're probably going to be doing, is to network in all of the players who have a piece of our community's pie, and this would be all those layers of government, all the NGOs, these kind of things. We have been focused on getting on with how we can look after ourselves when no one shows up, because that was our experience in that flooding event. And we've really kind of fast-tracked that. So our board is at this stage just made up of whoever was left standing in our hub, makeshift hub, at the end of that event. And luckily we've got some really skilled people in there. And we haven't really put enough effort in, because we've been really quite busy looking at how we can interface in a better capacity with the other agencies and government bodies, who I will say haven't really been to us to ask how they can help us really at all yet as well. So we're going to be waiting for them to come to us. So I think doing something like what you've got would be really helpful for us. One of the questions I have to address is, how do we measure success? And there's two ways, I guess, that we could measure success. One is, how many neighbours do you know and how well do you know them? So our surveys, one of the responses on our recent survey was that a person knew 10 people before the floods in their neighbourhood, and now they know 100. So as a KPI, we just think that's the best that we could ever ask for. That's our most favourite KPI, and we're really happy about that. So, so we're developing connection amongst the people that live here and fostering a sense of kindness. That's really our agenda. The back agenda, which follows in on the slipstream of that, is being better prepared to respond to and recover from natural disasters -- man-made disasters. And that looks like having a plan of action of when you're going to leave your house before the river comes up into it, and where you're going to go to, and how you're going to take your dog, and do you have some dog food, and have you got your medications, and all that kind of detail, whether you've prepared your home for fire, whether you've put in a fire break, or all those kind of details. So, but that's really our secondary agenda, really, in lots of ways. Our primary agenda is having a connected community. So really, community development is our #1 goal. And we're doing that by not coming in and holding centralised large-scale events, which don't really work for us here, but to bring it down to the smallest scale possible, and helping those people at that scale to do that work themselves. So that looks like Christmas parties for the street. And we have a gathering trailer, which is all full of gazebos and barbecues and tables and chairs and lights and all those kind of things, so that we can create a venue in what is essentially a rural environment. So these neighbourhoods don't have halls, and so it's hard to invite the whole neighbourhood over to your house. So by creating these venues is how we facilitate that. So that's sort of the role that Resilient UK is doing. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it.
Mel, thank you
good
so
luck with
much
your
for sharing.
good luck with your journey. Yeah, it's very important.
Thanks for sharing your innovative way of bringing community together and getting as many community connected as possible. Very inspiring. So next, I'd like to warmly welcome Liz Mitchell from Orbost. I'll just stop spotlighting Mel and spotlight Liz. Now, Liz is coming to us today. You may recognise the background as Bairnsdale. And so she's today from her car, although she seems to be a bit frozen right now. Liz, can you see or hear us? Okay, we might just give Liz a few moments. In the meantime, I did notice a question has come through. So until we get Liz back, I'll just ask one of the questions that has come through, and it's for Dougal. So Dougal, on an average of how many of the associated community membership attend the monthly meeting? What is the main scope, accountability, or perhaps the vision of the Community Management Committee as separate from the Executive Committee? Are you happy to answer that, Dougal? And I'll turn your mute off. Sorry. Oh, no, you'll have to unmute yourself. Sorry, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Good.
Perfect.
Now you can hear me?
Yes.
Great. So good question. So attending at our monthly management committee meeting would be generally about 15, a maximum of 20 persons. Some of them are very regular attendees that wish to give us an update on the activities of their particular association. On other occasions, it'll be people wanting to come in and tell us about something that's coming up, or alternatively, they may want to just ask some questions or give us something to deal with. So that's roughly on the numbers. So large, but not overpowering. With regard to the second half of the question, the management committee, to a certain extent, will approve of the decisions and the actions that have been taken by that executive committee. But it is a meeting at which we put the affiliates and those associations right in the center of that meeting in order to get their individual reports. So the reporting by the executive committee to that management committee is slightly limited and kept to what is happening at our facilities, the financials of the organization, and some of the key activities that we have going on. But otherwise, the separation really is through the powers of the association having been delegated to the executive committee, allowing them to do those day-to-day activities or the management of the association. I hope that answers your question.
That sounds like a perfect answer. Thank you so much, Dougal. I see that Liz has joined us again, so that's great. We have only 7 minutes left of our meeting, but so we may just go a little over time. So apologies for those who have only got an hour lunch break for this. So I'm going to spotlight Liz and unspotlight Dougal. And Liz, welcome, and welcome in your car. Thank you for taking the time to share your experiences with us. Take the floor.
Great, thanks, Natasha. Welcome back. I'm sorry, my internet dropped out. I have 31% battery, so it's okay, folks. You'll be out of here by midday. So hi, everybody. I can't see your faces, but I recognise a lot of the names, and it's really appreciate you turning up. And I just want to say what a great series this has been. I have found it really inspiring listening to people from other communities who have created fabulous community mechanisms for achieving some really great stuff. So I've gained so much from these other speakers. So of necessity, I'm going to gallop through a little bit what I wanted to talk about. So I'm currently chair of two organisations in Orbost, and what I really want to do is talk a little bit about the differences between the two of them. So the first organisation is Save the Snowy Rail Bridge, which was a community organisation formed for, as the name strongly suggests, saving a local historic icon, which is the longest trestle rail bridge in Victoria, which was visibly falling down and falling apart. Our organisation was formed on the back of early work done by another organisation who got some preliminary engineering work done and commissioned a social and economic impact and business case for the restoration of this old rail bridge, for it to become trafficable by pedestrians and bikes. And in particular, the significance of that is that that bridge is at one end of an existing 100-kilometre long rail trail and also connects into other walking tracks. It's right next to the Princess Highway. It is a true icon of our area. So it's a very, very significant structure and represented an immense opportunity to leverage something whilst saving a really important historic icon. So our very long-winded named organisation formed on the back of early work done that seemed to create and say, there is a case for doing this. So we went to the community with a community meeting in 2018 and said, this is the case, this is what we think we can do. Who is interested in being a part of this? And it was an interesting opportunity. There were people there at that meeting that said, why would you even save that bridge? All those sorts of ideas. But there was a strong support. There was a strong enough and clear enough support from enough people at that meeting to go, this idea has legs under it to form a community association for this purpose. I invited people to either nominate themselves as doers, people who had the time and the capacity to contribute tangibly to the work of a committee, but also people who were just really happy to be supporters, who could be on our mailing list, who could spread the word. And those are still two really important groups of people. Not everyone has the time to be on a committee and do something, but it was really important to have that group of people that said, can't or don't want to, committees aren't my thing, but I'm really keen to support in all the other ways the work that you do. So that is how and why our association formed. It's a very clear single purpose. And we thought that purpose was just to advocate for funds. We did not expect ourselves to end up being the project implementer, but that is what happened. As we formed an incorporated association, and as you were saying, Mel, post disasters, money rains out of the sky, and we had a very welcome but unapplied for sum of money fall on us from the Victorian state budget to restore the bridge. It wasn't as much money as we needed, but we were aware of that from the beginning, but it gave us a chance to absolutely make a fighting start of the restoration of the bridge. So I think that's quite significant in how we formed it. A lot of people on this line are very familiar with the work that the committee has done. It's very visible. You can't drive into Orbost without seeing it. So I don't really need to enlarge on that. And for those of you who don't live here, come and visit. Come and see for yourselves what it is. But that it was very important, I think, for the organisation to have its roots in a broad community meeting where people had the opportunity to say, "Yep, I'm in. Why are you doing this?" and genuinely garner some quite wide support for that. So that's how we formed. We have a pretty standard, we're an incorporated association. There's the president, that's moi, vice president, secretary, treasurer. But some additions that we formed to that, as once we found ourselves managing in the end $4.5 million of grant money, we really tightened up our governance. It was really, we had to have very clear, very unmuddied processes. It became very apparent we needed to pay a bookkeeper to manage our books, not just have a treasurer who had a quick run through how to manage the QuickBooks accounting program. So taking on a bookkeeper, organising ourselves into subcommittees as needed to do individual pieces of work. You cannot have effective and meaningful working conversations with 12 people on Zoom when you need 4 or 5 people with their legs under the table looking at a pile of drawings. So we became quite good at forming subgroups to work on specific things. So that's how we've organised it. It ain't rocket science, but we have adapted the level of organisation and governance to the so that it is proportionate, particularly to the amount of money and to the level of answerability that we have to government. And I think that's probably an important principle. Our successes and achievements is we've got a very long way to restoring a bridge. We've stopped it falling down and we've made either end trafficable by cyclists and pedestrians, and we've made some amazing visitor facilities around it. You actually can't walk across it yet, but that was intentional with the money that we had to make it clear that we needed more money. So you can't walk across the bridge yet, not quite. But our other really significant success is in the 7 years since we've formed, we have had a very high retention rate of committee members, which is a real testament to the commitment that individuals have had and been prepared to bring to it as an organisation. People have had to sometimes drop off because other elements of life have overwhelmed them. There's a lot that we've learned, all the usual stuff that you learn when you're a bunch of rookies and end up taking on a $4.5 million renovation job of a very old structure. Like, that just should send off alarm bells and trigger all sorts of feelings in any of you who have actually restored old houses. Let me just checking my battery power. I'm pretty low. Okay, so that's one group that I'm a chair of. The other group that I'm a chair of is the governance group for the Future of Orbost Future of Orbost District Forestry Transition Project. And that's been a really different group to be a part of. There are a lot more government stakeholders around the table, and it is a group that has been formed to implement a government project and a government agenda. But it still consists of great community members who have put up their hand to be a part of and help propagate that process. But it does make it very different having a group of locals who are going, here is a thing that we have decided to do, to being there to say, to turning up and saying, we are here to help implement a government program that is critical to our district. Our major industry has just been cut off, and it was in the end a very rapid cut off. 6 years became 6 months in a transition time. And so there has been a lot of learnings about interfacing with government, interfacing with multi-stakeholders. I've learned a whole new vocabulary about place-based governance. and the words collaboration, cooperation, the other C word that I never remember, and joining the dots are pretty much burned into my brain. But they are very different. They are two very different groups to chair, and that's a learning experience for me. That's it. At that point, I'm going to stop talking because we are out of time and I'm close to out of battery, and I'm going to hand back to Natasha.
Thank you so much, Liz. That was really informative of what the work you've been doing and the work that has been happening on the ground in Orbost. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. I'm sure there's lots of questions that I could ask you to develop this, but we will just close here. So just sharing that last slide. Thank you for your participation today. So now we're going to give you a couple of weeks break before the August the 21st workshop. That workshop will be a collaborative journey using the lessons from these 3 webinars, to design effective representative governance for the region. And we're going to be using a double diamond design process. For those of you who are into facilitation and workshops, it's going to be that kind of process. So in this workshop, we will use a simple step-by-step process to understand what is strong here, what challenges are, and how we can fix them. You'll get to share your stories and ideas, and there's no pressure to join the group, just to have your say. The goal is to build a fair and connected way of working that helps our community, or your community, thrive now and into the future. So stay tuned for a follow-up email once we edit and load the webinar to YouTube. George has put again the reflections link into the chat, and I shall also send that in the email. So if you could reflect on that. I will just share once again all our fabulous speakers, so we can send them off with a big hello, a big goodbye and farewell. So adding to the spotlight Mel, adding to the spotlight Liz, and adding to the spotlight Dougal. Thank you so much for sharing your community-led and very diverse and different experiences. I'm sure the Orbost community and any of the audience will have learned something from this. And I hope that you have learned something as well, and you can take that away to your communities where you are. So thank you again for your time, and until next time, and also to the audience, thank you so much, and you'll hear from us again. Thank you. Farewell.